You need a clear space, guys, when you're starting to like braid and stuff like that. Like, you really want to have a nice clear space. So this is where you need 3 bead stoppers. So we are first going to push our strands down on our finished end to make sure that we're flush on our finished end up here. We don't want any gaps. And then this is where we make our adjustments as well. So we'll just go 1 strand at a time. So I will lay these 2 strands down in a bead stopper. And now I am going to shake this strand down, make sure it's nice and flush up here. And I'm going to put my bead stopper right at the edge of my last bead, as tight as I can get that on there. Okay, so I'm not worried about those anymore. And then I'm going to get my second strand, and we're going to just repeat this 2 more times. So we'll take this strand, let's shake it down. There's a little bit of a gap there. And again, I'm just laying it down a little bit in a circular little half circle here, just so that I know that I do have some movement. So kind of like go like this when you're tightening it up, and you'll see your beads move right up here. And then we'll grab another bead stopper. We're going to put it right flush next to that bead. Now he's nice and secure. And now our final strand, we will do the same thing. Shake that down, make sure there's no gaps up there. And we'll kind of just turn it a little bit, just so we have a little bit of movement. We don't want it to be too stiff. And then we'll put our last bead stopper right flush up on that 3rd strand. Okay, and so now we have our 3 strands, and we just lay them out. And just like you would do like your hair, braid it, that's how I do it. Or you can just random twist. You can really be creative and do this any way you want. But that I'm just going to do like a braiding my hair. So I'm just taking this middle strand over here, and then this strand is going to go over here. And I'm just going to keep doing this and alternating these strands just like this, overlapping them just like this. So I'm just going over one, and then I'll put my hands more in the camera here. So now this strand is going to go over this one. And now the strand I just went over that is now under is going to go over this strand. And now this strand here is going to go over. And now the one we just put over under now goes over this guy. Okay, so now that we braided it, this is where we make our final adjustments. Because for some reason, I don't know why this happens, but it always happens to me, is you see how down here it got looser. And I don't know why. I don't know why, because you saw me hold it. It's just the weirdest thing that happens to me. So I need to put it down and just kind of see how it's laying and work with it, not against it, without any bead stoppers on it here. I am going to just see what happened here, because it loosened up a little bit. And okay. I'm just kind of going over and under just a few more times. There we go. And that's a little better. Okay. Now, here's where you make adjustments, and sometimes, because of course we just did all that braiding, there is going to be where, you know, you might have a gap. Like this one particular strand, it's like there's it's 1 bead less than the others. So you do want to kind of go down and make sure there's no gaps in your wire. And if you need to add a bead, then you can add a bead. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just grab this strand really quick. And again, you saw me do this from the beginning, and this happens. Sometimes even when you cut your strands precisely the same length, when you're finished braiding, this happens, and that's natural. Because again, you can't predict, like, you couldn't have put an extra bead on one strand because you couldn't predict the way that they were going to land, right? After you're finished braiding it. You just, there's just, that's impossible. There was no way for us to predict that. So I just do it this way because I find it to be easier. And, you know, it's no big deal to just, you know, throw another bead on there at the end rather than trying to do it somewhere else in the process when I have no way to know how my beads are gonna actually land. So now I've got that bead on, and now I'm much better here. And I'm just gonna pull them all down. Let's see. What happened again? Okay. You gotta fuss with it, guys, but again, you know, you'll get it, and it's, the end result is so beautiful. You just have to kind of go back and make sure you don't have any gaps, which I have quite a few gaps in my beads there. It's just, you just have to fiddle with it, is the bottom line. You really have to fiddle with it. And I am definitely okay with that. And I can see there's no gaps with any wires showing through. And so now back over here we go. And we are gonna feed this through all 3 wires and push that down. And if you need to pull each individual strand, that's perfectly fine. That's what I do. Until you're nice and flush here. And now I'm gonna once again do a flush cut. So all 3 of my wires are flush. And then we'll put our crimp on. And we'll feed on our clasp. And we're going to leave 1 wire out, which is one of our end wires, and then pull the other 2 back through that crimp. And grab your tails. And we're still holding this other one, and we're gonna pull those tails. And this is where it gets fidgety. So you really have to pull and pull and pull because you have such a tiny amount of space you're working with, to where you get all 3 of these strands up to that crimp tube. But just, you know, like I just said, just keep moving your crimp tube and pulling your tails, and then they'll come together. As you can see, mine just literally did. So just, it's like every time I move that crimp, it allows that to come up. And so now all 3 of my sections, they still look like a cone. They're nice and flush. Okay, and now I can go ahead and crimp. And I'll just do the 1 crimp. And now I know everything is perfect, nice and secure. I'm gonna take that wire back through the clasp. So he's just kind of sticking out there. And now I'm gonna cut that off, and I'll flush cut the other wires. It just takes some patience. There's lots of ways to put them together. I'll just finish off my crimp now. But the effect is so beautiful. They're very, very popular, very trendy. They're classic, timeless, seasonless. Doesn't matter what color pearls you're using. This is going to make a statement all year long. We've got lots of trends happening here with the choker, with the pearls, with the multi-strand. And so, you know, I'm glad that you guys, you know, hung out with me and stuck in there. And perfect now. And that's what we have at our finished end. And so as you can see, it kind of looks like a cone by putting that. That's why I wanted to use that little seed bead and show you that way. And that is our finished project. And it's just stunningly beautiful. And honestly, guys, like, I mean, if I can get that on correctly, I wanted to show you too where, like, the way that this lays is, as you can see, there's, you know, all of these little rondelles. They're very subtle within the necklace in this beautiful deep gray, but there's no two areas or three areas where the rondelles are directly next to each other. They are spaced all throughout.